So Jason, my son, how many of you know what a Yu-Gi-Oh card is? Yu-Gi-Oh cards? Not too many. So think of, how many of you know what a Pokemon card is? Pokemon card? A Yu-Gi-Oh card is a Pokemon card on steroids. And he collects them and they trade them and they play their games. And he was very upset because he realized that he'd lost his Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and he asked Lynn, have you seen them? Have you seen them? Where are they? And he looked around and he couldn't find them. And then he just let it go. And then that night, when it was time to meditate with him, which we do every night before he goes to bed, it was Lynn's turn to do that. And he had found them. He had found them, and he told her this. And it was just so wonderful that he found them. But he said, you know, things like that don't bother me anymore. I don't worry about them. I just let them go. And you remember a couple of weeks ago I talked about losing my wallet? You know, and he helped me with that. He helped me release that. You know, detachment is the key to manifestation. Detachment is the key to having best outcomes. And detachment from the outcomes is even the key to the best outcomes. And I know it's tricky, but this is called moving from being double-eyed to single-eyed. And I know this is some real abstract stuff, but every world religion talks about it. The entire Bhagavad Gita, which is the cornerstone of Hinduism, the whole thing is a training where it says, you know, learn how not to see according to the opposites of life. Birth, death, good, bad, up, down, right, wrong. And start seeing from the spiritual, and then the answer will come forth. And this is true in all world religions. In the Sufi teaching of Islam, it says, don't have two eyes, have one. And Jesus talked about this as well. There's a wonderful quote about detachment from Zhuangzi, who was a Taoist writer, and a friend of mine who was the head of the religion department at Hunter College said that Zhuangzi was the world's first religious stand-up comedian. And so he wrote these funny things, and so this is kind of his little comedy take, but also, this was translated by Thomas Merton. Remember when Pope Francis was here, he was quoting Thomas Merton and talking about him? Thomas Merton is way out in the metaphysical realm. Thomas Merton, his assistant, when Thomas Merton died suddenly, up and moved to Unity Village, went to work for James Dillett Freeman in Unity, and said it was the closest thing that Merton had ever taught, and that Merton believed in reincarnation and everything that we taught and studied Unity, and couldn't talk about it because he would have been silenced. but so his translation, I'm talking too much. When an archer is shooting for nothing, he has all his skill, but if he shoots to win a brass buckle, he becomes nervous. If he shoots for a prize of gold, he'll go blind or even see two targets. He goes out of his mind. His skill hasn't changed, but the prize divides him. He cares. He's thinking more about winning than of shooting. And the need to win drains him of his power. The need to win drains him of his power. So where do you have attachments? You know, Jason said, I let go. I let go of my worry. You know, Jesus said, don't worry. Don't worry about the future. In fact, he said, don't worry about tomorrow. Let tomorrow worry about itself. It's got enough troubles of its own. Let it go, let it go, let it go. But how do you let go of worry? Oh my gosh, the only way to let go of worry is to move from that pair of opposites, which is, you know, I gotta have it, or, oh, ain't it awful. You know, those two extremes. And we're all facing that this week. This week is a difficult week. It's a troubling week. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. Somehow, you know, once again, for the 250th time this year, there was a mass shooting. And I've been reading the beautiful writings from the Unity Church in Roseburg, Oregon. And how do you deal with these things? Because you and I can't physically change the outcome of these things, but there are things that we can do. We can fully engage, but not be involved personally. And I know it's a tough one, but it's moving from the two eyes to the single eye. This is a real tough teaching, and yet it is the cornerstone of all spiritual teachings of all world religions. Move out of the physical. Move out of the world. Jesus said, I live in the world, but not of it. be engaged, but don't be involved. You say, but I've got a problem. I need a job. I've got a problem. You'll never get your answer at the level of the problem. You'll only get the level of, thank you, God, for the divine solution to this perfect problem. Together? Thank you, God, for the divine solution to this perfect problem. Perfect because it's moving you up to another level. In and of itself. Now, this is going to challenge some people in this room. But getting a literal outcome is not the answer. Getting the literal outcome is not the answer. Let's say it together. Getting the literal outcome is not the answer. And what is the answer? It's the divine solution to the perfect problem. That means lifting up into another level where we see things with a single eye, where we see things with a spiritual eye, where we stop looking to the outer solution to give us the answer. And in and of itself, that is our answer. And I'm going to challenge us, and I'm going to say that getting a specific outcome is the booby prize. An outcome is good. And we will get better outcomes, as that parable suggested, if we're not attached to getting that specific outcome. It's a paradox, but you've got to let go. You've got to let go. Jason realized that he might find his Pokemon cards if he let go of the outcome and trusted in this moment. He knew that it was somewhere and that there was a divine intelligence and it would lead him to whatever was the highest good. And either the literal thing or something else would come forth, but it's not looking according to that dualistic good, bad, right, wrong, up, down. And when we're facing the world problems, we're facing problems in our families, sometimes we can't get the movement in the outer that we would like, but we can still move ourselves. You know, once I was facing a situation that I couldn't get some people to move the way I wanted them to. Have you ever been like that? I couldn't, it wasn't happening. And I talked to my spiritual mentor, and she said, that's okay. They may never move, but you're going to move. In fact, if they don't move, it may move you faster. I want you to think about it. If that circumstance doesn't change, or while it's not changing, you will change. You will move your consciousness. You will, of necessity, move up to another level. You will move from the two eyes to the single eye. You will move your consciousness. Jesus said, what does it gain you if you gain the whole world and lose your soul? But actually the word psyche, which means consciousness. Gaining an outer answer is not the answer. And yet answers do come. Oh boy, this seems so abstract, but you gotta get with me on this. It's moving up to a level where it's not about good, bad, right, wrong, all the opposites, the dualistic, looking at things according to appearances, being subject to the physical world, but moving up to that spiritual realm where all things are possible and letting go of the outcome. He became okay with not having his Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards. He was okay with it. I was okay with not having my wallet. We need to be at peace in the middle. Jesus called it the peace that passes understanding, which means peace that does not need outcomes in order to be peaceful. And when you have that peace, when you're experiencing that peace, when you're moving with that peace, then what happens? Then you're lifted to the place where the best outcome works out. Then you can say, I lift this up to its highest possibility. Together? I lift this up to its highest possibility. And it's the highest possibility. So let's talk about what Jesus said about this. He said the lamp of the body is the eye. It follows that if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. But if your eye is corrupt or double, your whole body will be darkness. No one can be the slave of two masters. He'll either hate the first and love the second, treat the first with respect, or the second with scorn. You can't be the slave of both God and materialism. Materialism, mammon. It was the false Philistine god of getting stuff. And it's not about getting a literal outcome. It's about moving into a new place. This is another quote from Jesus, and it's about that childlike attitude. You say, but I want the outcome, but you've got to let go of wanting. Wanting can interfere with getting. And move into that place where the highest outcome works out. Jesus saw some babies nursing, and he said to his disciples, look at these nursing babies. They are like those who enter the kingdom. They said to him, then will we enter the kingdom like babies? Jesus said to him, when you make the two into one, and you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and when you make the male and female into a single one, so the male is no longer male and the female is no longer female, then you will enter the kingdom. And then he said elsewhere, it's better to enter life with a single eye than to have two eyes and to be thrown into the purification. So, what am I saying here? He's saying, move from the opposites. I know this is challenging, but you say, okay, I want something practical. You're talking a lot of metaphysics here. Give me something practical. And what's the most practical thing? You got to move up. You got to trade in your double eyes for a single eye. You got to stop looking at the world to give you what you want, but move up into the spiritual and then let that outform as needed. Moving things up to its highest possibility and then letting it outform as needed. Letting it outform. Letting it outform. I let it outform as needed. Together, I let it outform as needed. Now, what you say, what does this have to do with the answer? I learned this very concretely when I was a Fuller Brush man. Everything I learned about the ministry, I learned as a Fuller Brush man. Much more so than in 2 years of ministerial school in some ways. Because, first of all, as a friend of mine who did something similar and became a minister said, you know, you get immediate feedback on what consciousness you're in, what psyche you're in when you're in that kind of environment. And I put myself through school selling brushes door to door, and, you know, it was like it was either fish or cut bait. I had to deal with whatever was in front of me. And my metaphysical teacher, my meditation teacher, shared with me the method that she suggested that I use. And she said this: every house that you walk up to, put white light in the house. Just put white light. And don't do it to make a sale. That's the trick. That's not okay. So now think about it. That's kind of tricky, isn't it? So you want to make sales, but you put white light there. And think about this in terms of your life, in your work, in your family life. You put the white light, you put the light, and you pray a blessing upon everybody. And I kept walking. I didn't stop in front of the houses. And then it freed me. It freed me because she said, your real work is to bless every house that you've been assigned in the neighborhood. That's your real work. And then she says, your sales will take care of themselves. And I had the highest sales per hour in 3 counties. And I didn't do anything the way they told me to do it. Except for one thing. He said, my manager said that the thing that he found, and he'd spent his whole life doing this, he said, the thing that allows you to have success is what's called the what the hell attitude. Which is where you're not attached. You're not attached. He says, and if you can reach that place where you don't care one business or another. He says, you get to the end of the day and there's 4 more houses and you want to go home, but you think, what the heck, I'll just do these 4 houses. Because you don't care anymore because you already made your quota. He says, I guarantee you, you're going to be there selling the next 4 houses like crazy. Now, I'm not telling you this because you need to be Fuller Brush people. I'm telling you this because whatever your arena of life, moving out of the attachment to outcomes, but instead moving into a spiritual service, that's the single eye. Spiritual service. I'm here to serve. I'm just here to serve. Replacing the desire for outer success or getting a certain outcome or getting everybody around you to change. To what? To being in spiritual service. And realizing this, that they may never change. Jesus said, the poor you'll always have with you. He said, God makes the rain to fall and the sun to shine on the just and the unjust alike. He also said, resist not evil. He didn't say you weren't going to have bad experiences, but you have to bring your consciousness, your psyche, to the circumstance and change. Realize that what did Pir Vilayat Khan, the psychotherapist and Sufi master, said? He said, we bring heaven to earth. We bring heaven to earth by dealing with ugly things beautifully. And my teacher said, they may never change, but you will change, and if they don't change, then it'll maybe move you faster. In dealing creatively with the situation, you say, but I'm a victim. I don't like it. It's not what I want. You can't control those things in the outer. You can't control the headlines. You say, but somebody's got to do something about it. The number one thing you can do is move your consciousness up. And then when you are guided, you will know what to do in the outer. But it's not about doing the archery to get a gold prize. It's about doing it because you are spiritually growing. I'm bringing this up because this is the centerpiece of all spiritual teachings. And yet it's so subtle and so rarely understood. I just want my outcome. I just want my pony. You know the story. But no. Let go of that. Move up to the higher place and then let it outform as needed. And don't be attached to appearances. Don't be attached to the appearances. Move into that new place. So, what is that perfect problem? Perfect because it's moving you to another level. Perfect because it's calling forth resources inside of you that you didn't think you had. Perfect because you can't stay stuck in complacency anymore. I don't stay stuck in complacency anymore. Together? I don't stay stuck in complacency anymore. Oh, not everybody said that. Whoa! So what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm not saying that this participation is required in order to be in the service, but what kept you from saying that? Because I want to be comfortable. Because I don't want to move. I want them all to move. I want them to change. I want them to do the thing I want. And I want to be able to do what I want to do. Anywhere I want to do it. No. Move ourselves into a place where we are exercising discipline and responsibility. Discipline and responsibility. Now, those are tough words, but Paul said this. He said, I am in training. I'm as much in training as a person who's going to be in the Olympic Stadium. But unlike those people who are running a race in order to win a crown that they put on their head that's made of plants, I am doing this for a higher crown. And he went on to say, I'm training as much. He says, I'm training like a boxer, but I'm not shadow boxing. And he actually said that I'm not shadow boxing. Taking and doing these things, you say, but this sounds so hard. It is a matter of discipline and responsibility, about exercising discipline and taking personal responsibility and moving out of our complacency and moving into that place where we're willing to do a little, just a little, but consistently. Going to the meetings, doing the meditation, taking the step. We were at our meditation retreat, and one of the things that helped me to lift up was we talked about what we were working on. I was working on quieting my mind. I've got a chatterbox mind. I love facts. I love the news. I love looking at stuff. And I was like, no, I need to let it go. And we had the opportunity to ask the people in the room, what do you do to help whatever the problem was we were working on? And so I asked around, and people gave me such great feedback. One person said, I'm a musician, and I have songs going through my head all the time, and it keeps me from writing my songs. So I realized that what I need to do is just turn the song into Om. And she said, and it worked beautifully, and that's really helped me. Another person said, who had really successfully quieted their mind, she said, I just used the affirmation, and I used it for 3 years. I hold no thought. I hold no thought. So the thought comes, it just goes through me. I don't hold it. Doesn't mean you don't have thoughts. Everybody's going to have thoughts, but it doesn't hold. That's really helped me. Another person said, when you're with somebody and you've got all those chatters going through your head, you're thinking, what are they thinking of me? What am I going to, I want my turn. I'm judging them. All this stuff. She said, I just go, I am you. With my in-breath, I am. With the out-breath, you. She said, don't move your lips because they'll think you're weird. It'll freak them out. But just do it silently. I am you. And what that does is moves you into that place where, I get it. I get it. I can be present. So look into your life and look at what you're working on. Look at the situation that you're facing and the circumstance that's beyond your physical control, and realize that the answer is found moving past the outcome that you think you need to have into a higher one. And one of the greatest examples is from this book, Spiritual Power Tools. Jane Elizabeth Hart, who we were in her meditation group this last weekend, wrote it. And in it is this wonderful chart that Lynn drew up of her idea, Jane's idea, called the spiritual thermometer. Now you say, he's bringing that up again? Yes! Like I'm bringing up prayer and meditation and all those. it's about taking responsibility and disciplining it. So this is a great exercise of moving up to a higher place, a higher level. And so you ask yourself, where am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Take it and say, where would I like to be? And just imagine yourself going up to that higher level. And you say, but that's so simple. It's so simple. Yes, it is simple. It's simple to say, I hold no thought. It's simple to say, I am you. It's simple to say, I am in the presence of pure being. It's simple. And moving ourselves up to that higher level. Moving ourselves up to the higher level. I had a whole bunch of other things to say, but I'm not supposed to say them. So, part of the deal is that you follow your guidance in the moment. You know what you're supposed to do, and you move with it. And you move with it. So, again, I'm going to just reiterate, your answer is not found on the level of the problem. It's not found on the level of the physical, which you look at with 2 eyes. It's found on the spiritual, which is that single eye that only sees oneness. Remember what Jesus said when the man asked him, what's the greatest commandment? And he said, the greatest commandment is this, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one, and you shall have no other gods before me. Love the Lord your God with all your soul, heart, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That oneness, we put a false god ahead of God when we're worried. When we're worried about the future, when we're worried about the past. Emerson said what's happened in the past and what's happening in the future is nothing compared to what's happening inside of us. And what's going on inside of yourself, what's going on inside of your heart. Cultivating that. And then you'll know what to do in the outer world without getting yourself involved. And this brings up one last thing. Being involved, not being involved, but being fully engaged. Once a year, the board meets with me to do an annual review. And one of the things they ask, what are you working on? What are your tough things that you're dealing with? And I said, I need to be less involved. And the question was, well, what do you mean less involved? What does that mean, less involved? And it was like, less involved means not being attached personally to the outcome, but be fully engaged spiritually. Not looking with 2 eyes, but seeing with the 1 eye. So we're going to move to that higher place. We're going to move into that higher place. And I'm going to invite you to imagine, if you know about the spiritual thermometer, imagine this bulb thermometer that has 1 to 10. It's written in, and you just imagine, where are you? And then move it up. And that's what we're going to do. And you say, that's so simple. But it's the simple things done with discipline and done with consistency that create the highest possible outcome. So, just join with me and just ask yourself, with whatever's going on in your life, where are you on the spiritual thermometer? Where are you on that spiritual thermometer? And just take whatever number comes up. Imagine it on that bulb thermometer. See how high it is. Accept that. And then feel yourself grow lighter, more spacious, brighter, as this lifts up to where you would like to be. What number would you like it at? Move up, up, up. I lift this up to its highest possibility. Thank you, God, for the divine solution to this perfect problem. And as you move this up, know that you are shifting your energy, your awareness. And now you just let it go and know that all things are working together for good because you have lifted up into that single eye, that spiritual faith perception, and the outcomes will work out for the highest good. And know that you are going to be guided, that you've already received that guidance, that things are already working together for your good. We say, thank you, God. So it is. And take a deep breath and let it out and set aside all the papers in your hands, because we're going to move from the physical into the spiritual. We're going to move from that place that sees according to appearances to that place that sees from the spiritual. can see with the eye of faith. We're moving from what Jesus called the two eyes into the one spiritual eye. From the world of opposites to the spiritual realm where the answer will always be. So we take another deep breath and let it out. And we just rest easily in the thought. I find my divine solution to every personal problem. I find my divine solution to every personal problem. And know that the answer to whatever you came in with today is not found on the level of appearances of what you've been dealing with. Whether it's a person or a circumstance or your own thinking. The answer is found on another level. When we change this affirmation a little silently, we say, thank you, God, for the divine solution to this perfect problem. Thank you, God, for the divine solution to this perfect problem that lifts me up. That lifts me up into that place that I can begin to see with a spiritual eye. Not seeing things from the eyes of opinion, appearances, but as I lift up, things clear. I hold no thought. I even let the thoughts flow through me because I am lifted up. And in lifting up, some of us may feel like we're taking the stairs or an elevator or even a hot air balloon, but we lift up. However we can do this from that place of opposites into that place of oneness, and that place of appearances into the place where the answer is. We take no personal thought. We hold no thought. Our whole experience is to lift up. Lift up. Feel with your inner senses. You're lightening up. And in this new place, I'm aware that things are lighter, more illuminated, open, 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 open. Free. And here I can look with the eye of oneness. The one, not looking to the outer world to give me my answer, but finding my solution in and of itself, in spiritual upliftment, and in that space I receive that which I need to know, and I give thanks. I give thanks for this. And I just rest easily knowing that I have no worry, I have no concern. I am already moving with my answer. My answer is already moving in me. And I am flexible. And I move out of my complacency into that spiritual attunement. And I dedicate and rededicate myself to keeping this channel open. I keep this channel open. Thank you, God. And so I'm going to give in the spirit of oneness. I give in the spirit of oneness and I receive abundantly. Together.
I give in the spirit of oneness, and I receive abundantly.
And silently. And again, aloud. I give in the spirit of oneness, and I receive abundantly. And so it is.